Hello once again YouTube, this is Chris the Nightbringer, and today I bring you Stable Build 0.185. So, in the latest addition to StarMade, which was on the dev build for a relatively short time before being pushed to stable, we see the introduction of a new blueprint system that will hopefully work in conjunction with, it will work with shipyards, which is something that I personally very much look forward to. And I'll talk more about my opinions on this entire matter at the end, but right now let's just get into what was actually changed in this recent addition to the game. So, if we take a look here, I have a shop set up ready for us to use. It is an infinite shop with restocked items, but that doesn't really matter to us right now. And if I press B and I go into the catalog, you can see that there are no longer values for the currency requirement to buy a ship with. Of course, I still have credits, right? I have, well, billions of credits, but you could see, well, actually not billions, but millions. You could see now, you could see that there is no value for credit cost for a ship. It doesn't tell you how much it costs. It does tell you, however, the mass of the ship. And if I go into the Amar Imperator here, for example, you can see that there is still no information as to what it costs in terms of credits. If I click on the mass number, it'll actually tell me what the ship is comprised of, the number of blocks, and what types of blocks are on the ship. Personally, that's an amazing feature, and I'm really glad that they incorporated it into this menu here, because it kind of gives you an idea as to what a ship might be about if a description is not given. You may also, for example, be able to determine whether it has got efficient or capable scanners. Technically, you can determine the thrust of the ship if you know the math. You know, there's a few little bits of information that you can determine just by looking at overall numbers displayed there. So that's pretty neat. I think that's kind of cool. Okay, 27. I never noticed that number right there. I guess that's how many blueprints I have right here. Interesting. Anyway, so what happens when you want to buy a ship? Well, let's say I want to buy the Caldari Dragonfly. It has a mass of 1044.5. Oh, no, that's the burst. The Caldari Dragonfly has 47.9 mass, which is 479 blocks, I believe. We're going to buy it. And it tells us that we are going to buy a blueprint. It will be put in our inventory, and we will right-click on the blueprint to provide it with the necessary materials. Specify the permissions for Caldari Dragonfly. Well, what? Oh, I guess I clicked over something or double-clicked somehow? Okay, that was a little weird. Anyway, as you can see, I now have an icon, a blueprint here in my inventory. If I go in my inventory and right-click on it, it will now tell me all of the materials that I need to add to the ship. It will also tell me how many materials I currently have added to the ship, as well as a percentage on whether it is completed, going from 0 to 100. Now, the percentages currently do not work, it appears, and I can add the ship core. How many ship cores do you want to use for this blueprint? Warning, once used, you cannot get the resource back. Now, there is a way to get the resource back, and that involves editing the blueprint between the time that you've spawned it and the time that you've bought it. So keep that in mind, that you can in fact get resources back if the blueprint has changed after you bought the actual blueprint object, the blueprint meta item. So as you can see, I now have 100% completion on ship core because I have added all of them to the blueprint, and it is removed from your inventory. Although I have quite a number of ship cores here, you will see that not only can I add things individually, for example, 110 of these gray standard armor wedges, which is a massive amount. I didn't think that ship had that many. I can also add all from inventory. And it warns you again that it will take the maximum amount of from your inventory that is necessary to complete the ship, and that you will again not get those items back. And now that I have put all of these items into the ship, I can now spawn it and name it as I normally would if I were buying it from the shop in the previous version. And there it is. There's the Caldari Dragonfly. If we jump in the ship, it should work just the same as it did before. we can check, of course, real quick. If I find the computers, that is. We can see that there are Canon computers. We can see the overdrive computers. We can see the other Canon computers. And all that's working. So, you know, it's basically the same exact system for buying the ship and spawning it in. The thing that has changed is what you buy the ship with, which is the actual materials for the ship. Now here's the thing, and players don't really realize this, because they don't think this way. Buying a ship, and I believe this is how it worked, when you bought a ship in the previous versions of the game, the price was calculated based on the price for the blocks used on the ship. So, if you guys really need to, you can just buy the blocks from the shop and then construct the ship that way. Now, players currently are a little bit skeptical as to how this system is going to work, because a lot of them believe that they are going to have a difficult time buying larger ships, and that it's not going to be worth it to buy larger ships because of how hard it will be to get their hands on that many materials. Now, there are two things that I have to say about this. First of all, this is probably something the devs have thought about and wanted to happen. I have talked to the devs in the past, specifically Calberry, about the fact that they don't want big, crazy ships. They want players to be able to build on a scale that makes the game enjoyable. They want to have ships that, you know, aren't just filled to the brim with offensive systems, such as cannons. Cannons recently got a cost increase for creating them and buying them, because they don't want players to be building with big guns. They want players to be building nice ships. They want people to build balanced ships. So that was an attempt to make it harder for players and more valuable to lose a cannon or any other weapon system. And shielding as well has gotten that buff as well. Shielding has been increased in terms of the cost for building and buying them. So that's the first thing I have to say. Second thing is that a lot of players have come up with a compromise, and that is to buy the rest of the materials that you are missing on a blueprint if you are near a shop or shipyard for a staggering cost increase. For example, if I go into the shop right now, I can look at standard gray armor and it costs 175 credits. Well, let's say that you've run out of all your standard armor, you don't have time to go buy more, or build more, or acquire more. You should be allowed to build the rest of it for a massive cost increase, 5 times that amount in credits. Now, there is a little bit of a flawed logic with this. First of all, just because you're buying the material for a higher cost, that material still has to exist. So I think it's a little dumb to spawn items out of thin air simply because you want to be quicker. So this is something that players, I literally just thought of this problem as I was recording this video, like 2 seconds ago. Think about it. If you're going to buy the rest of your ship simply because you do not have the materials, and the reason you would be buying the rest of those materials through the blueprint system instead of through the shop is because the shop has run out of those materials as well. So think about it, guys. What you are essentially doing is converting credits into blocks without the blocks actually being there. You are spawning in blocks and just removing credits. And I'm not sure about that. That's something that needs to be thought about, because I am not for spawning blocks in any way. If, you know, an actual economy starts getting rolling in a StarMade universe where the trading guild will actually transport materials and actually stock their systems and their shops with materials that they have actually resourced and mined, then I would be 100% against spawning in blocks with credits alone. So that's something that I thought about, that nobody else has come up with so far on the forums that I've read. And it's a shame, because right now a lot of people are pushing for the ability to spawn in those blocks with an increased credit cost. Another thing that I'd like to mention is that this is all supposed to work in conjunction with shipyards. Shipyards are coming soon. I don't know how soon. I'm thinking they'll come in before the release to Steam. So I'm thinking within a month we will see shipyards be a thing. And there's one thing I would specifically like to say to the devs who have probably already thought of this, but I'm going to say it for general purposes anyway. I think it should be imperative that a player waits for their ship to be built at a shipyard. If they have all the resources on their body, and they go up to a shipyard and they press build with the blueprint, and they instantly get a ship, it lessens the value and the experience of buying and building a ship. Personally, I mean, like, that player could quite literally blow up, go to their base, open up a chest, gather resources, put it inside the blueprint, and spawn another ship in within a few minutes. They could get a ship this big, right? A ship this big, or bigger, just by moving some materials around in a few chests, and they'd get another ship within a few minutes. I don't know. I mean, once they got all the materials, bam, it's like that, and they can spawn in a new ship, and I think there needs to be some sort of timer attached to spawning in blueprints, or spawning in ships, especially at shipyards. If the ship is going to be constructed, then there are two options. We can actually have a timer that builds the ship. You submit all the resources, and then a timer starts counting down based on the mass of the ship, and when the timer is done, the ship is complete. As the timer is counting down, the ship is slowly built right before your very eyes. I'm sure that's possible, especially by rendering it via segments. So that's one option. The other option is to build the ship based on the resources that you have already placed in the blueprint. For example, if I throw in some of the thrusters, it will build the thrusters that I've put into the blueprint. If I throw in some of the cannons for the ship, it will place those cannons in place on the ship in the shipyard. So I think that'd be a really nice way of going about it, but I still think that a timer should happen. It should be built over time, especially if you submit all the resources for a ship at once. I think there should at least be some sort of timer, maybe a combination of the two things that I just said. Not only can you watch it be built as you submit the resources, but a timer should be there additionally to that, so that you are forced to wait a little bit before you get a ship, because that will add value to the ships themselves. The fact that you cannot instantly get a ship will add value to, your playtime, what you do with that ship, everything. And I think that's very important, because right now players don't really value their ships. They think they might, but they really don't, especially when they're blowing each other up the way that they currently do with their ridiculous weapon systems. They really don't value their ships the way they could. So I think that's important. I'm just saying that in general because I think that's a really good idea, and that's just my opinion. So yeah, tell me what you think of this stable branch build. Tell me if there's any suggestions that you think should be changed or added for this this current system. Personally, I think it's really great, and I can't wait to see what else comes along with this. And that's it. So I'm Chris Nightbringer. If you have not already, subscribe for more so you can see more of these update videos and all my other content. And I will see you all next time.